Hello and welcome back to Born to Rant. I'm Brandon, and this week we are diving into a movie that Disney had absolutely no faith in. A movie that actually rivals Home Alone's home invasion sequence, and a movie that had every 90s kid play fighting as ninjas and screaming. That's right, today we are diving deep into 1992's Three Ninjas. Written by Edward Emmanuel, directed by Jon Turteltaub, and starring the late great Victor Wong, Michael Treanor, Max Elliott Slade, and Chad Power. We'll take a look at how the movie came together, everything that makes it still worth watching today, and its legacy nearly 35 years later. Now, this is a movie that I absolutely grew up with, watching it on a loop alongside stuff like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Surf Ninjas, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and then pretending to do karate with my brother and cousin and annoying our parents by constantly yelling. And much like Surf Ninjas, when I started getting older, this was a movie I could never bring myself to hate on. Now, is it kind of bad? Absolutely. It's a ridiculous kids movie, but really just every scene involving Fester, Marcus, and Hammer just so happened to be some of the best comedy put to film in the 90s. Yeah, I said it and I stand by it.
First we feast, then we felony.
Seriously though, every time these guys are on screen, they're saying something that I quote way too frequently in my adult life. Like sometimes when my dog who has bad knees tries to run, I'll just look over at my wife, and start saying,
"Slow it down, slow it down, slow it."
And then we've also got Victor Wong just being super charming throughout the entire movie. But before I start diving too deep into the movie, let's take a quick step back in time and learn a little bit more about how the movie came to be. And I'll be honest, this is one of the hardest times I've had researching a movie for the channel. There's just not a ton out there about the making of this movie. From what I can tell, it starts with this guy, Kenny Kim, and the idea of blending the kid-friendly martial art action of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with the home invasion antics and booby traps of Home Alone. And Disney liked the idea well enough that they gave the movie a small $2.5 million budget, and the movie pretty quickly came together. And the best behind-the-scenes story of the movie is hands down that on the first day of filming with the surfers, Patrick Laborato walked on set and another actor asked him who he was playing, and he said Fester, which confused the other actor because they thought they were playing Fester. And anyway, that other actor ended up just walking off set.
Bummer.
And out of nowhere, the second assistant cameraman, DJ Harder, stepped up and said that he thought he could pull the role off. And originally, director Jon Turteltaub was a little reluctant, but agreed so long as they shot around Harder so that if they ended up having to cut him, they wouldn't actually end up having to reshoot anything. But obviously, Harder is incredible in this movie, and he only acted one other time outside this in a movie called Dark Side of Genius, but he's continued to work behind the scenes as a camera operator on shows like Shrinking and Big Little Lies, among dozens of other movies and TV shows. After Three Ninjas wrapped production, it went into somewhat of a contentious post-production process, with Touchstone's owner Disney being worried that the movie was too violent in its current form. So the decision was made to add in cartoon sound effects and re-edit a few key scenes. And this leads to the infamous international version of the movie, which has never officially been released on home video in the US. However, if you rent the movie digitally now, it seems like the international version is the most widely available one, and the one that is available whenever this movie streams. And Disney had absolutely no faith in this movie whatsoever, but everyone hoped it would find maybe some life on home video. However, on August 7th, 1992, Three Ninjas was released into theaters, and on its opening weekend, it placed fourth at the box office and made $5.8 million against its $2.5 million budget, making it instantly profitable for the studio, and it would end its box office run with a worldwide total of $29 million. The movie was so successful that a sequel would be instantly greenlit and shot before the end of 1992. However, due to issues with licensing and rights, that movie would actually become the third Three Ninjas movie released, but that's a story for a different video. Apologies for the interruption, but I just wanted to jump in and quickly ask that if you're enjoying the video so far, that you take a moment to either like the video or subscribe to the channel. I'm a completely independent channel, and if it means anything to you, I don't use any AI in the making of my videos, so you liking or subscribing really would mean the world. And with all of that out of the way, I think it's time for us to grab our cool ninja masks, yell at the top of our lungs, and dive into everything that makes Three Ninjas still worth watching today.
Slurpee.
Radical.
Slurpee.
We're out of here.
And obviously, there's one sequence in particular that makes this movie still worth watching, but we're going to wait just a minute before we dive into it.
Bummer.
Because first, I'd like to start by talking about the actual filmmaking found here. First of all, I think that Jon Turteltaub did a fantastic job of directing this movie. It's got a great sense of continuity, and you can tell he worked really well with the kids because they're all giving really solid performances. I mean, we're not talking like Oscar level acting, but for being as young as these three were, they're all really delivering. Also, Richard Michalak's cinematography has some real standout moments as well. Like the opening training sequence is playing with some fun morning haze. There's also this cool shot of Grandpa throwing on his ninja gear at night that looks sick as hell. And the kidnapping sequence has some really great looking moments as well. But we're talking about a low budget kids movie, so all things considered, I think this movie looks pretty solid overall. And speaking of this being a low budget kids movie, I think one thing that makes that very obvious is the score by Richard Marvin, which isn't awful by any means, but the main theme just sounds like the most generic kids movie theme ever to me. But maybe that's just because I've seen this movie so many times. But okay, let's dive into the movie itself. So one thing that always immediately jumps out at me is how great the opening sequence is at setting up the story. The voiceover from the boys not only gives us some background information, but we immediately get a feel for how these brothers interact with one another and their dynamics.
He'd wake us up with a different test, which I was always ready for.
So was I.
So was I. Yeah, right.
And then we're immediately introduced to the late great Victor Wong as their grandpa, and I love that the movie opens with him messing with the boys. It's very cute and fun. Again, this whole opening is great and kind of a standout for the movie overall. We even get introduced to our bad guy Snyder, played by Rand Kingsley, who only ever acted one other time, and I genuinely think this fight sequence is fun, and the back and forth between Snyder and Grandpa is pretty interesting. And of course, the opening sequence ends with Grandpa giving the boys their cool new ninja masks and renaming all of them. And just a quick side question, which ninja were you when you would play Three Ninjas growing up? I was always Rocky because I was the oldest, and my cousin, who's like 2 months younger than me, was obsessed with horses, so naturally he was always Colt, which left my little brother to be Tum Tum. Anyway, after the opening sequence, we get some fun stuff with the boys back home, and shout out to production designer Kirk Petricelli, because even as a 36-year-old man, I still think this bedroom is sick as hell. And this is, of course, where we get our first rendition of
Rocky loves Emily. Rocky loves Emily.
And then we cut to be introduced to the true stars of the movie: Patrick Labertau as Fester, Race Nelson as Marcus, and DJ Harder as Hammer. And I mean, you want to talk about all-time great character introductions? Few scenes have ever been able to set up stoner surfer bros better than this movie does, and they don't even need weed to make it happen. Just everything about their introduction is perfect. But my favorite part is Fester's pager going off and him very politely asking,
Excuse me, sir. Could I please use your telephone?
The next morning, we get the boys rushing off to school, and I love this side plot of this group of evil bullies roaming the big bad streets of the suburbs and stealing kids' bikes. It's legitimately hilarious, as is the basketball game that Rocky and Colt play against the bullies. And I love that Rocky claims to be,
I'm not showing off. I'm playing basketball.
but then they also give the bullies a 9-point lead before they even start playing. And okay, let's get to the best sequence of the movie: the kidnapping. I mean, I just absolutely still love this sequence. Even as a grown adult, it made me laugh out loud multiple times, and it's going to be really hard to not just make this a compilation of my favorite lines, but I'm gonna do my best. Okay, starting off with them
Creating the babysitter with the pizza.
is great. Plus, Homeboy going in for another slice is hilarious. I love how legitimately excited the boys are by the threat of the kidnapping so that they can use their cool ninja powers, but my favorite part is that they justify not being able to call the police because there's no phone in their bedroom, and then they all immediately spread out throughout the house to rooms that one would assume have a phone in them. So after not finding the kids in their room, they go to the next obvious spot.
How's little booger? Where would I be? Mom and Dad's room.
Only for Colt to lure them into this guest bedroom that's under construction. And has it also always bothered anyone else out there that Colt immediately ruins his sick mask by spray painting it? But anyway, he beats the crap out of them, then chases 2 of them downstairs while Rocky is busy trying to strangle Fester, all while Tum Tum is making pepper bombs. And man, I gotta say, I definitely feel for these guys when they get hit in the face with these things, even though it seems like the props were probably just balled up flour. So then Colt tricks 2 of them into drinking
Instant diarrhea.
and we get one of my favorite lines in the movie.
Where is Fester?
Tits, bail me out.
It legitimately just cracks me up every time. So then the kidnappers trick Emily into coming over, only to try and use her as bait, but Tum Tum instead takes them out with Emily's help, and then the boys really just torture these poor guys for a few minutes, and right when we think it's all over, the real bad guys show up and grab the boys for real. And we sadly don't see Fester, Marcus, or Hammer again, and are kinda sorta led to believe that Snyder might have had them killed, because when they were hired, Fester's uncle says,
Feston, don't screw this up. We'll have to kill you.
and well, they kinda did mess it up. Honestly, the kidnapping sequence is the true highlight of the movie. Once the kids are kidnapped and on the ship, I think the movie just really loses steam. There's some fun moments like the boys prank calling from their cell to escape, and of course their final showdown with Rushmore, and Grandpa reminding us of the doll he used to foreshadow the showdown with at the beginning of the movie.
Remember the practice dummy! Light up the eyes, boys! Light up the eyes!
Grandpa defeats Snyder with the power of jelly beans, and everyone goes home happy. So, over 30 years later, what is the legacy of Three Ninjas? I mean, I think it sits on the Mount Rushmore of kid ninja movies, alongside Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Surf Ninjas, and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, which I am going to be covering very soon. Honestly though, I think this is a movie that holds a special place in the hearts of every 90s kid that grew up with it, especially the stuff with the kidnappers. Even as a teenager, I was still quoting stuff from that section of the movie all the time with my friends. Plus, this movie would also lead to a large increase of enrollments in martial arts schools, and we would get 3 more Three Ninjas movies over the next 6 years. They would shoot Three Ninjas Knuckle Up in 1992, and all 3 of the main boys would return. However, due to some rights issues, that wouldn't end up coming out until 1995, a full year after Three Ninjas Kick Back had already been released, which only saw Max Elliott Slade returning as Colt and Victor Wong as Grandpa. And then finally, Three Ninjas High Noon at Mega Mountain was released in 1998, and Victor Wong was the only returning cast member from the original movie by that point. It would also sadly be the last movie he would appear in before his tragic death in 2001. Director Jon Turteltaub wouldn't end up returning to direct any more Three Ninjas movies, but he has gone on to have a pretty solid career, directing hits like Cool Runnings, Phenomenon, National Treasure, and The Meg. But let me know in the comments, what do you think of Three Ninjas? Does it still hold a special place in your heart? What about the sequels? I honestly haven't seen any of them in probably 25 years, but if you guys want me to cover any of the sequels, please be very loud about it in the comments. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you for watching, and as always, an extra special thank you to all of my supporters over on Patreon and my channel members here on YouTube. You all truly keep the lights on here at Born to Rant. If you're interested in joining the Patreon, there's a link in the description below, or if you'd like to become a channel member, there should be a button right beneath this video to join. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps out smaller channels like myself, and that's going to do it for Born to Rant this week. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.